Niamh, we're standing here with your work Gather, which you've been fabricating in your studios, Temple Bar Galleries and Studios in Dublin, for the last 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years.
How does it feel seeing the work installed in this extraordinary space in the Arsenale? Does it look the way you hoped it would look?
I mean, there was a certain amount of being very clear about where things would be positioned, but I really like installing as well. So we took time and we built that into the schedule to move things inch by inch and to play the objects off against each other, because I think the show is a composition in itself. It kind of relates back to the smaller works. So having certain, high works which are kind of inviting you to stand under, relating to lower ones which ground you in the space. So the works kind of function in pairs or in groups. So it had to kind of happen when we were here, really. And it did, yeah.
And your work is very much about the richness and texture of the materials. And here we are in a space that has an incredible amount of richness and texture and history. What are the aspects of the installation that are exciting you most, that are setting off resonances that you were hoping for?
Yeah, well, actually, it was almost the journey through the Arsenale until you get to this space, because it is at the end of a very long corridor, and there was a sense that it's really a porous room. So we opened up all the windows which had been blacked out for the architectural Biennale. We opened the doors wide as the first glimpse of water, and I quite like the idea of building a sense of porousness into the work itself. So there's pieces that almost look like drains that leads your eye towards the light and the water, and the light comes in and transforms the work all day. So the situation of it being kind of a breath of air and a point where you go outside as well was relevant, I suppose, or I knew about it. So it could be kind of both a risk that everyone's dying to see to get some air when they get to your space, but also just taking that on and thinking about how the work can sit within it.
Well, you are giving them plenty of space around the work.
Yeah, there's a lot of space to move, I think. I do want it to choreograph people in some way, not in a really directive way, but for you to respond to how things stand or lie or hang in the space physically. So you need to create room for that to happen, I suppose.
And it's too early to say whether it's having the desired effect yet? Have you been quietly watching people?
I have, and I had a wonderful experience where the Croatian Pavilion have a performance which takes place in other people's pavilion. So it's a moving event, and they had 5 dancers come in here and stand in relation to the work yesterday. And they are really kind of attending and performing and standing in relation to the objects. And as they did, everyone else did. And it was just this amazing, animating, attending force. And I thought, yes, I could keep them. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And the name of the work is Gather,
yeah,
which obviously is a word that has huge resonance for us at this point in time. Delayed biennial and what we've been through.
Yeah, it's a funny moment, isn't it? You can feel it in the air. We're still wearing masks a lot in Italy, but it was both a kind of invitation, I wanted it to be a welcome and a kind of stand together in a space with things, with objects, touch and feeling the power and the weight and the height of things, as opposed to a kind of virtual relationship to forms or artworks. And also a kind of, what does gather is it can be a kind of command, I suppose, and it's quite a strange word these days. Don't gather, gather. These things have had, the ideas of crowds have huge resonances, both, socially with COVID and politically at the moment. And I thought it was a term which maybe talked about the kind of complications of events.
I read on an interview that it was, the name came to you really intuitively, easily, and stuck.
The works are doing it anyway. I'm literally gathering pieces on a shelf, or I'm gathering one work beside another, and I was thinking about the processes and how you name them and what I'm doing, and it just seemed to just to spread out in relation to the whole show as well.
I wanted to have a chat with you about landscapes, because you just told me that you grew up in the west of Ireland, which has some extraordinary landscapes. I mean, unexpected things, limestone formations that look like no other kind of objects. Do you feel that this landscape has very much informed your desire to place unusual or objects that cause some sort of friction in unexpected ways?
Well, there's something about the familiarity of static forms and how how people build their lives in relation to them. So I grew up directly in front of a large mountain, which kind of stands on its own in a landscape. And everything is positioned in accordance to it. We're at the front of it, somebody else is the back of it. I mean, it's absurd, you know, that we would use those terms in relation to, you know, to describe a relationship to a mountain. And I made a film about trying to position ourselves in relation to it a few years ago. So yeah, and I'm interested in how maybe relationships to landscapes that you were born in or that you had a strong experience in can define how you think about you know, open views or close, tight, comforting spaces and that kind of, yeah, locating oneself. So some people who grew up in vast plains, I think, enjoy the horizon, whereas I feel like my work does relate to kind of constant interruption of lakes and landscapes and gaps and presences. And yeah, so maybe it does, I don't know. It's kind of nice to think about it.
I had a wonderful conversation with the Irish poet and philosopher John O'Donoghue, where he was talking about the Celtic imagination and how the landscape is alive as any other sort of being to, you know, the Celtic imagination. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on a small farm, and you know every field, and you know the rocks, and you know the hedges, and you know how they work, and where they flood, and where they're drier, and where the sun shines, and yeah, I think there's a knowledge of living and working in the landscape. It's something my family still do, but it's not something I'm doing now, and I'm living in the city. But it's I think that knowing, and in this show, I have a very microcosm version of that in a way, because during COVID, my husband and son and myself dug a hole in our very small inner city garden to make a pond, and we were quite interested in how you know, especially with a child, you want to kind of literally touch the ground and feel it and think about what it means, and this process of digging a hole made a literal mountain in our very small space and full of things, and then we sealed it, and all the birds came to drink the water from the pond, and it was just this relationship, this very real, touching kind of and very simple, you know, not fancy relationship to the land, I guess, which I really enjoyed. I think gardening and farming are quite similar to art making. They're space making, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lovely quote of his that I wanted to share with you. Connecting with the elements can be a way of coming into rhythm with the universe. And I guess that doesn't matter whether you're in a back garden playing with mud and water, or in the countryside looking at a beautiful mountain. And
becoming conscious of the support systems that it's providing you with, whether it's the ground we're standing on, which is a compressed limestone concrete, or whether it's the ventilation that we need to pull the air back into our spaces, or the hooks and handles that we produce from the wood that we grow to kind of position and locate ourselves and support ourselves in our very small lives, domestic lives even. So all of those things go back to the forms, to those origin forms, you know, of wood, of earth, of, you know, stone. So yeah, I am interested in that relationship and how somehow to make it tangible in kind of familiar but kind of slightly unfamiliar forms. Yeah.
So going to the brief that the Biennale director, Cecilia Alemani, gave, which was to see artists express your themes, looking beyond the metamorphosis of bodies to relationships of individuals, to technology, and of our bodies to the earth, I guess, well, it's all of that, isn't it? The technologies of how we make things, what we manufacture, the materials we use, and also how we move around on the earth. In relationship to those objects.
How they support us, and how we maybe need to recognise and openly kind of refer to that and acknowledge it or something. Yeah.
And how do you feel about being here representing Ireland after what we've been through in this extraordinary, very woman-focused, woman-artist-focused?
It's amazing. It's amazing we even have to say that.
But it's something to celebrate at the same time.
It's absolutely, and all I've seen so far of the show is tremendous, and just really exciting, and really visual, and really tangible, and really about people being here and responding to concrete forms. And it feels different to stand beside a stone than it does to look at an image of stone, and that I think that needs to be, we need to be reminded of that, And even if we need to be careful how much we travel and gather, there's something to be said with bringing all these diverse people together in this one moment. It's just incredible. We're next door to Chile and to Oman and to Philippines and Croatia are performing in here, and it's just that mixture of nations and conversations is really incredible actually to be part of. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.